we'll talk about QTerm, basics of QTerm, but we'll also go into the hidden tricks. Before we go there, actually, I would first like to ask you for an opinion. What I would like to hear from you is, why actually bother with terminology? Because still, like, we hear that terminology is not managed and some do not care about it, even in the high profile industries where you would maybe think like pharma, still the terminology is not that important. So what is the added value for you when you deal with terminology? So we have some results, which is great. Consistency, right? You would like it stands out, and quality and efficiency. You would think that when you translate repetitive tasks, that the terminology would just fit in there, right? So this would be kind of a logical thing, and approved terminology, that's like the main pillar of your texts, of the consistency of the texts. So this is still like sometimes surprising to me why this is not so like straightforward, and actually it is a new concept that you have to sometimes really explain to your audience, and they will then like buy it, or yeah, you maybe also present this to your colleagues. But okay, we got some nice results here that show the main areas where we actually add value. So consistency, quality, efficiency, time savings. Well, yeah, terminological clarity. We save time. Consistency will basically improve the quality, so it will make the users, in that case, happy. With consistency, we also save time, so we don't have to spend so much on QA. So this falls nicely into the big picture. I'll also share those results with you later, so that you can have them as an inspiration, so that you see what the broader group is thinking. So this is one question, and the other one that I would also like to ask you for an opinion is this one. So what is for you the main challenge of selling terminology? In selling, I also mean, like, if you are an LSP selling to your end clients, or if you are an end client selling it internally or presenting it internally, what are the challenges? So why can you not maybe sometimes invest in a terminology manager, or terminology services, or products that support you there? So what are the obstacles? So price is currently is sometimes is a problematic part. But why actually why are buyers not buying? If we say with the price, I mean, if you invest in the terminology, this will improve the texts. This will help readers understand the text better. Will not have so much negative feedback and things like that. Why is it challenging? So is it really the price that is so prevailing factor when we sell translation services, like, broadly? So yeah, also awareness. This is a good one. Like, people are not sometimes aware that what benefits actually what benefits does it have if we maintain the terminology. So this slide falls nicely, I think, together with the one before. Yeah, it's also sometimes ignorance. Costs, I mean, we cannot really avoid it. So price, costs, this is definitely a factor, but the question is if it's the only factor or if it's really such a big factor that we cannot overcome. That's my goal here, to see if we can somehow overcome this barrier of a price, because it is there, it will be there. So what we can do to actually raise the awareness so that the price will not be the prevailing factor, but other things will be like the benefits of managing terminology. So some of you have found out solutions, some will still do. Today we'll talk about potential solutions on how to tackle this challenge of raising awareness, having something to deal with when we talk about prices. If you are an LSP, how to convince the enterprises to pay for the terminology services, or if you're an enterprise, convince the managers to invest in workflows related to terminology, tools to support you there. So also workload, yeah, that's also a good one. Sometimes we don't have the time to do that. We really have to deliver quick and efficiently. So it's also a good one here. Okay, so we have some feedback. I'll share this with you so that you can get some inspiration. And we'll talk today about tools that can support you with the terminology workflows, and also some workflows in general. And I'll try to present you some ideas of what some clients are doing and what we are doing to help them. We will now first go over here and talk about what is available technically when we talk about terminology. So you are more or less all server users, cloud server, same thing in the core. And that server comes with the built-in terminology module that you can use. And there is also an extension about which we'll talk today, which is QTerm. So I'll first explain what are the main differences between those two modules, and then we'll see actually how QTerm looks like, what are the possibilities there, and what are actually the extensions, or let's say different usages of QTerm. And then I'll also let you play around with QTerm. If you don't have QTerm yet, I have created a server, a demo server. We'll put let's say an empty term base there where you can do everything that you wish. So it would be like a sandbox. And I'll leave it open for a couple of days so that you can definitely try it out. So this one, we'll talk about why QTerm at the beginning. So why QTerm and not the standard terminology module. So for that reason, let's go to memoQ. And let's check here the resource console. And we will create a new, let's say, term base. Let's say we want to start our terminology business, and we want to create an empty term base first. We could actually already go here a step back and talk about terminology, how to actually get terminology from existing sources, from existing documents, from clients, and import it or extract it, because there are tools how to import terminology either from Excels or TBX files, different files, or we can actually use the files that we got from the client and extract terminology from there. So we could already start talking there, but we'll say we will start from scratch. So we don't have any documents yet here, and we will create an empty term base, and we'll focus on the limitations of the standard term base and how QTerm can overcome them. So if we create a new term base, as you can see, there are some fields that we can use to enter terminology, to enter meta information. We can enter information about project, client, domain, subject, and description, and that's basically it. We are limited in that sense. We could also, when we would add terminology, when we would add new terms, write examples of usage, notes, some information, gender, number, case sensitivity, things like that. But in essence, that's it. So we are here limited when we talk about the structure of the database. If we want to add some more fields here, like for instance, source, statuses, different types, we cannot do this. So here we are limited when we use the standard term base. So this is limitation number one. Limitation number two is that we can, if we use those fields, we cannot really filter out anything. If we will have one big database, then every time we will always display all the entries, and that's really it. We cannot somehow filter out anything. So this is limitation number two. Limitation number three, and that is a big one, or can be a big one, is that we have to actually be in memoQ to work with this database. So either we are translators, we are assigned to the project, and we can then access the terminology database like that from projects, or we actually have to be in a resource console, have the appropriate rights, and then do manage terminology like so. The thing is that for one, we need a license for that, and for two, not everybody wants to install memoQ. So on the browser, that's not possible right now. That in the browser, it's not possible. So QTerm allows us to actually log in independently from the projects to the database and work on it. So we can invite a broader group of whoever is interested to participate in terminology management. Number four is that we need a license for accessing or for opening memoQ's database, standard database. Whereas if we purchase QTerm, it is a one-time fee, or let's say subscription, but then unlimited number of people can work on it. So this is also an advantage. And what is also an advantage or a disadvantage in this case for the standard term base are the discussions. You may or may not be using discussions, but discussions are really nice if you do not want, if you are a project manager, if you don't want to be like a messenger, communicating things that, let's say, translators suggest, and you pass that message over to the terminologist, and then vice versa. So if you do not want that, there is a functionality called discussions, which linguists can use autonomously. So you don't need to be there as a middleman to pass on the messages, to pass on the notes. So those are the let's say the drawbacks of the standard terminology module. If you are really looking to start working with the terminology, then it's fine if you start working here. But if you think big, if you plan more long term, then QTerm will eventually be a reasonable, let's say, decision, especially if you're an enterprise. If you're an enterprise, you can have a team of linguists work on the terminology, but then a marketing team or software developers can access that terminology independently from the translation work. So I'll show you some examples of that one. So those are the limitations here. Now let's check how the QTerm actually looks like and what's possible there. We will be logging in to the server, and I'll share with you the details later, just that I create the database and assign the appropriate rights. So we will here on the left side see the QTerm tab. If it's not available, then this means that you don't have the license yet. But once you will get it, this will appear. And then for the first time, you will not see any databases yet here. But you can either import a new database or create a new one, or you can actually convert the existing databases that you have. So the standard database is to QTerm. That is actually one of the hidden options that is nowhere here to be seen. So if you want to convert the databases, you would click here on show all. And then you would click on convert. And then you would see here which the standard databases are available. You would select them, and then you would be able to convert them. So this is some feature that is maybe hidden too much, but we have exposed it today. So what you would do with that is you would convert it to QTerm database. You can still use it as you have done in the past, just that now you have more functionality. You have discussions, you have custom, you have flexible structure scheme available for you, permissions, filters can now be set. So all the advantages that QTerm brings. So we can do that, convert to QTerm, and that's basically it. Going back to the main window, and now we have our first database. We will now create a new database, QTerm database, and give it a name, NQES1. We could here also use the standard fields, meta fields, project, client, domain, subject, description. So here nothing new is there. But then we can also add languages. Languages are also the same as with the standard database. So we will pick English, and let's do German, Italian. By the way, congratulations to the fans, soccer fans, for winning the championship. And going to the next one, where we can now add our own custom fields. Here we have the structure, and the structure looks the following. So we have 3 levels. We have the entry level, we have the language level, and we have the term level. And on those 3 levels, you can see that there are already some built-in fields, which we can then fill in when we enter terminology, or they will be automatically filled out. But the real advantage is here now that we can click on this little plus, and we can build our own fields. We can say we want to make a status field. And as you can see that there are also different types of those fields. Now, if you plan to have a status field, usually the values are fixed. You wouldn't have unlimited number of those status values. So in that sense, the type text is not really meaningful, because here everybody can write everything, but you may want to limit that down. So what you can do instead is you can select this to be the pick list. So you would define the values, and then the linguists would pick the value. As you can see that there are also some other types. We have the number, we have a Boolean, so it can either be true or false, maybe preferred, or you can say yes, no. And then you can have a date field, media field, an additional one or additional ones. And then you can have the lists where linguists can select either one value or several values. In the sense of, in the case of status, you would usually have a one value that would be picked. And now let's imagine a workflow. You are, let's say, a linguist, and when you enter new terms, they may by default get a status called new. And then the terminologist or an expert logs in and can then look for those new terms and change the status to either approved or rejected. So this would be one very basic case on how you can use the status field. You can name them any way you wish. There is no limitation in terms of how many values you would add, also how many fields you would add. So very flexible there. Click on the, what you can also do here is you can say that this field is required, and you can set the default value, which will be new in this case, and then you can also write a description. Then you click on save, and now linguists will be able to use this field. You can also then go to the other levels, language level or term level, where you can say, okay, let's add source. And in this case, source can be a text field, so people can just copy there what they find. Okay, so this is now the flexible structure scheme. If we are done here, we just click on finish, and now we can start adding new terms. And actually, I may already add you here to the to try it out. I'll just need to set the permissions. So permissions on this database can be set by clicking on those branches. And on the last one, you would click permissions, and then you would find the user. Now for you, I have created memoQ, this one, and will give you admin rights so that you can actually change also the structure and really play around with it. This means that you can also delete it. Try not to do that. Or if you delete it, create a new one. But yes, if you want to play around with it, I'll also paste the information into the chat. So feel free to try it out. And okay, we got that. And now let's go explore the options that we have when we create the database. Let's go to the beginning. When we first log in, we can already start searching for terms. So this is the search bar, and we can select here which term bases will we use, and also in which languages. In this case, we don't have any entries yet, so we can click on this database, and then we'll be asked to enter the languages. So we'll pick English and German, and we'll have the default filter, which will display all the entries that we have in the database, browse term base. And now we can start adding new terms. So on the right side corner, we say new entry, and we will write, yeah, I have already done that. So let's say soccer, and this will be football, but without this. Ooh. Okay, so this is the one. And now, as you can see, we have the meta fields, the default ones, but we have here the custom one, which has the default status new, and that's fine for now. So we can save and add a new one. And then we got our first entry, but then we can also add another one. We can say football, and this one is also football. Again, with this usual. Okay. So, and we'll also add another one, which is completely not linked to them. So car and auto. So this is also new. And we'll save that one. Okay, so now we have 3 entries. If we want to edit those entries, we can click on this little pencil, and this will show us a minimized view of all the fields that are available. And if we click on this little hidden, well, this is also not that self-explanatory, this eye, it will display all the fields that we can fill out. So we can see here the entry level, again, our custom field, image. Then we have the language level, and we have the term level, where we also have our custom field. So if we want to add a new, let's say, if you want to add a new term, so a new, let's say, translation, auto is one of them, but we can also say PKW, Personenkraftwagen. Yeah? Click on it, and this is the one. As you can see that this one didn't have the status because the status is on the entry level. You could also add the status field to the term level so that the terminologist would have to approve this one. Here we just have the source. So this is how you can modify the entries. I have also mentioned discussions. If you would want to start a discussion about a certain term or a certain entry, you can click on this little symbol, start a new discussion. And here you can write car or PKW, something like that. You can describe the problem. And something like that, auto. So, and then what's nice about it is that you can pick a person that can help you answer this. So we got our user list here, only two, but if you would pick the person, that person would then also automatically receive an email with the link to the discussion. And I can show you how that looks like. So if you click on create and open, this, I'll probably now log in as the admin, as memoQ. So here we will see the discussion, and then we can respond to it. Okay. And then we can say if this is open, resolved, or closed, we can say resolved. And then click on add a comment. And then the status will change. You can then also follow it. You can mark it as start, pin this topic. This is also stored, as you can see here on the left side, it's stored on the server. So project manager or administrator can also moderate this. And then if we go back to QTerm and open this database and look for this term, we will see now there's this discussion appeared, but it is already green, which means that it is resolved. If it wouldn't be green, if it would be red, this means that it would be still open for discussion. So this is how you can streamline the communication in QTerm. And this button, this discussion button, is also available in the editor. So you don't have to be actually in QTerm. You can actually use discussions from the editor as well. So the linguists can also use the translators. The second thing that I wanted to show you is how you can link entries together. Those two entries could theoretically be linked, and how we can do that. Every entry has an address, has a URL, which we can use to link two entries together. So if you want to link them together, we can click on here this little chain, so URL. We copy this. Actually, we could also send this link to somebody and then they could easily open this database. That would also be possible. Copy it. And then on the second one, we click the icon that is right to it and we paste it here. And we select what's the relationship status. We can say that they are synonyms. And we can create a relationship. So now those two entries will be linked and you would see here the relationship between them. Good for transparency. The next thing that I wanted to show you is how you can, like, we have here 3 entries, and that is manageable. Like, we don't need to use any filters or any batch operations, but some databases can be really huge and you need to perform searches and you need to do some batch operations. And those 2 things I would like to show you now. So first, how to change batch information, how to change meta information in batches. We can, for instance, say that those 2 entries will both be confirmed. And we can do this by selecting them and then click on search and replace meta field or metadata. And then we have the possibility to change the meta. And for instance, here, change the status to approved. And then click on replace. And replace. So this will now change the meta in batches. So that's nice if you know what I mean. If you really want to do something on over several entries. So this is one thing. Now sometimes the problem is actually finding out which those new entries are, or specific entries. And for that reason, we can choose filters. If you take a look into the left corner, you'll see that we have here the default filter and start and duplicates. So you can easily find duplicates, entries that you have starred, or which is by clicking on this little star, or the default filter will show you everything that that you have in the database. But now with QTerm, you also have the possibility to create your own filters. So for instance, we can create a filter that will show only the new entries, so that the terminologist or an expert will log in and only work on those entries that are really relevant, so new. Later, we can also create another filter for the approved terms. So maybe terminology, so maybe the marketing department would only see those entries that are really approved and not bother with those that are rejected, obsolete, or still pending confirmation. How to create filters? Let's go back to the structure, and I'll explain to you the logic. So here we got the definition, which is the structure. And what we'll be using is we'll be using the level. So we have here entry, language, or term level. So we need that. We need the field name, and we need the field value. Those are the three requirements that we need to create a filter. And now we can go to the filters. And we have here our default filter, which is fine, but we'll create a new one. And we'll say, we'll give it the name, new terms. We can also add a description, but most importantly, we need to add a condition here. And here we need to pick the field and then also the value that we want to use. So we will use status and we will look for new terms. So we click on this drop down and we see here at the beginning, we have the entry level, then we have here the language level, and then we have here the term level. Our status field appears on the entry level. So here we'll find it. And then we need to also select what is the operator. So it can be filled in. So this means that anything that is there, but in this case, it's not accurate because we really want a status to have new in there. So we cannot use not filled in because this means this will not give us those results, or is not, so negative selection, or is any off, so we pick any of the possibilities. But in our case, we really need to have only new, and that means we'll pick here equals. And then we can choose the value available, either new, approved, or rejected. So we can say new, and then we could also change conditions. We could also change conditions, but in this case, we will not have to do that. Click on save. And then we can also do the same thing for the approved terms. So create filter, use the status, but pick the approved terms. So now if we go back to our database, actually we could already start using the default filter here. If you click on this magnifying lens, we can select the languages, but then instead of the default filter, choose the new terms. So this is what the terminologist can do. Browse term base. And now we should only have here this car, which is not yet approved. So we can click on the pencil button, entry, and change the status to approved, save. And then this list will also be empty because there are no terms for approval. And we can click on the default to select every thing that we have. So those are some of the things that you can use. Maybe briefly mention what's also possible here. If you want to see the history of the term, you can click on this clock, and it will show you whatever was done with the term. You can, of course, also export terminology, either a filtered list or the complete list, into the typical formats, TBX, CSV, XLS, even SDL is supported here. And then you can also choose which fields you will use and how it will be exported. If you plan to export also the images, then use the zip format. And then you can select also the languages and some custom fields. So that is possible. And then you can also import the same Excel into this database. If you are importing an Excel from the first, for the first time, you need to define the structure first. That's important to mention. If you have the possibility to use a TBX, or if you're, for instance, importing from Trados or something else, somewhere else, there is the file extension. I think it's XCS. So it's a structural file which defines the meta fields, and then there is the content, which is in XML. So you combine those two, and then you will get. You can automatically import it. You don't have to manually create the structures. If it's Excel, you have to first predefine the structure and then import it. So filters can be used, discussions, and if you wish, you can also do a pretty print of this glossary, which can really look like a glossary. And yeah, but really the point is that this is all browser-based, flexible structure, flexible access, but still linked to the environment and unlimited licenses. What I wanted to mention then is are the extensions. Some clients actually go even beyond that. So go beyond that. And QTerm actually can be controlled through two APIs, Web Services API and Resources API. This means that you can do something with QTerm without actually seeing QTerm. And I'll show you some examples. For instance, TermWeb is an extension of QTerm, let's say, because it gives you an even more sophisticated, let's say, network, how the terms can be linked. So if you plan to work there, you can also link it to QTerm, and the linguist will have access to TermWeb. We also have developed a couple of instances on custom translation memory and term-based web lookup tools. So clients can have a white labeled website where they just simply enter a term, and it will search through the selected term bases and translation memories. And then also, for instance, we have the acrolinks, let's say, integration. Acrolinks is quite popular, specifically in the German-speaking region. Maybe even broadly in the Europe or around the world. But what's interesting with this integration is that we can export the database through the API and then push it to acrolinks so that it will be managed there and used for something else. And we don't have to really think about it. We can actually schedule the exporting. So whatever linguists do in QTerm, this will be automatically periodically exported and then imported into acrolinks, where, for instance, software developers or anybody can have access to the terminology. So this is acrolinks, and there are also similar concepts of this connection. So exporting automatically from QTerm through the Web Services API and pushing it to the source system. But what's also interesting is the World Health Organization website, which I can show you. It looks like this. It's you don't have to log in anywhere. It's a search engine, and we could here say paracetamol, and we will search for paracetamol. And what's interesting about this website is that it's actually based on QTerm. So QTerm is running in the background. It's you don't see QTerm or memoQ sign anywhere. It's all corporate identity related to World Health Organization. And yeah, it's done based on the API. You can also suggest new terms here. You can select the languages, reverse the direction, have the filter possibilities. And they also added some audio files, which is pretty cool. And yeah, everything is maintained in the back end. So for the front end, it's really nice. And you can, some clients also did this. This one is public, so that's why we can use it. Some clients have their own homegrown lookup tools, and you can also get yours if you would wish. So the API can be used for that. We can also help you with it. And yeah, I hope that now you got some ideas how to use QTerm or how to work on terminology a bit more broadly. So now we have some time for questions. Start from the beginning, so that selling terminology is never a problem. The platforms for managing it are probably kind of both. But yeah, it's platforms are always there to be improved, and actually we are also working on that. So QTerm, if you have been using memoQ for some time, you know that it is it's, let's say, a relatively old product. Still, it's being used quite intensively. So yeah, QTerm update or upgrade is planned on the for the future. So yeah, this is why we are also doing this, because getting feedback from you from events like this is very valuable. Is really like great, because you know how to use it. We do some case studies, we do market research and stuff, but new cases will always be there. So new ways of working with terminology, new challenges. So whatever feedback you have, that would really help us improve the platform. So can I change the way how to choose the target language of a term base? The list is not handy if you have 10 languages you need to find in to select them. I mean, databases do actually not have target languages per se, like the translation memories would do. So you have a number of languages, and that's what you can do. Like for instance, if you are in QTerm, if you want to change the target language, you can either click this magnifying lens or pick, let's say, a language, or you can also do it by clicking on the column header, and here change the language. That's how it can easily be done. Can users add their own languages? I need a distinct Old English and Middle English. Yeah, that's a good question. Languages is currently not supported, so adding custom languages, but that's actually on our radar, if not on the roadmap. So we'll add now one language, but the concept of adding languages, that's something that we're also looking into. So hopefully you'll get to be able to do that soon. Can you save, import, export this term-based definition? Yeah, you can. You can do this. So term-based definition is the structure. So you when you import, you can do a couple of things, but if you export, if you export the term base, you can do it like that, tbx, and export QTerm specific metadata and export it like that. Also, when you import the database, there is, well, you can here import a file, but in the next field, let me show you. Kill gray. So if we take a simple Excel, you can save a profile, so that if you don't have the structure file, then you can still use the profile for that. So we say one entry per line, and yeah, that's fine. That's really not here important, but what is important here are those fields, right? So this structure, that's something you can save. So if you say here, this is an entry ID, this is an English term, this is a German term, this will be ignored, this can be a custom field, and this can, let's say, also be ignored, let's say, like that, and add it entry ID. Okay. So in this is something that you can then save. Give it a name. And next time use, of course. Okay. There was seconds. Okay. Import export is filtering an entry at entry level or at the term level. It's on the entry level. Is there no pop-up message to warn in case of duplicates? No, during the import, no, you have to do this afterwards. Discussions, can you assign the question to a whole group, several persons? No, you can only pick a single person, or you can have a profile which will have a group email. That's currently possible. But those are all like nice feature requests that you can also submit to us. That will be really great. And manage Google, that's why, okay. Kevin has an alternative. Oh, it's creative, that's great. Are the relationships seen in the editor? Yes, they're also seen in the editor. Is discuss a new feature? I don't have it in 9.6. No, it should be there. Maybe they are disabled for the user, but this should be possible. I mean, you should be able to see it. It's an old one. At the moment, I'm showing the UI of QTerm for admin. How does QTerm look like for users who do not want to administrate anything in QTerm, but only want to use QTerm as a term base, as a reference when writing text, for example? Is there something like an easy view which only allows you to see the terms created by the terminologist, an overview the admin can create for those external users? Yeah, it's a good question, really a great one. And here, if I log in as the standard user, I would see the exact same view. So you would be able to search. You would be able to search for entries here, and that's it. You would not be able to see all the fields available, but yeah, maybe you have just this simple search bar here. Why is this a good question? Because there are tools, and I think Acrolinks is a good example for that. I think Acrolinks can be used for technical writing, and with the connection of QTerm and Acrolinks, you can actually have a simplified tool to see the terminology being used. So I think in this sense, and that's actually maybe something for the production, but we are talking here about authoring support, and this is currently an area where we rely on third parties. So but it would be also a good case if you have such a request, you have your own system, we can then maybe build a plugin for you that would automatically display the terminology, because we have done something like this for simple websites. So you have a simple something like this, just really plain, nothing fancy here. You can actually be even more minimalistic. So if you just want to see the terminology, so if it can be a website or it can actually be a plugin, that one is a bit more sophisticated because we need to know the tool. But a website, that can definitely be done. Is possible to make duplicates recognize? Is it possible to make duplicates recognition case sensitive or not? Yeah, that's a good one. I think that has to be a feature request. Yeah, that has to be a feature request. Do you plan to update the QA part on memoQ to automate regex creation to avoid false positive with terminology checks? I didn't see that plan in the short term, honestly. So it would be a feature request. So yeah, but not on the short-term roadmap. But it sounds like an interesting, a good suggestion. Language sets created by user avoids individual selection. Yeah, comment from Kevin. Is it possible for a function to make all these start entries not start? No. You would have to, that would be again a feature request. Is there a limitation for how many languages a database permits? So no, you can have as many languages as you wish. QTerm accessible. Yeah, for years, Peter has mentioned consideration of making QTerm accessible in parts to smaller enterprises or even individuals. What's the status of that? Yeah, that would be more a question for the product owners, honestly, Kevin. I would wish I would help you here. I have also heard some discussions about this, but this would be really a question for the owners. So or yeah, product owners and the CEOs. It's, I think, more a business discussion. And are any process automation features on the roadmap? For example, proactive notification for new terms, terms to be approved. This is a common request. Yeah, indeed, I fully agree on you. This is the request I also hear often. It is already on the feature request list. I believe this, if it will happen, this will be part of the QTerm revamp, because it just makes sense. Like we have seen some workarounds to do this, but like honestly, I fully support you on that one. So if you wish, you can drop me an email, and I'll put a proxy vote on this feature because it just makes sense. Yeah, acrolinks is an overkill for just simple search bar. Stripping something down to ease to use shouldn't be a rocket science. Yeah, I mean, if you just want to have like a simple website to do searching, that can be done. Even a simple tool can also be developed. So yeah, acrolinks is a sophisticated system, but very simple solutions can be done. Maybe you can check the resources API if you wish to explore that, because resources API is, let's say, free, and with some basic, let's say, skills, you can actually read the term bases and see the suggestions. So yeah, we can also do that for you, but if you have will to invest some time into the APIs, I think you can also get that done to work by yourself. So, but we are here also to support you. Can we send you a link to the WHO website? Definitely. I'll place that one over here. And what is the best way to upload multiple images and link them to the entries in the existing QTerm term base? I would say Excel plus subfolder would be the easiest. Because in the Excel, you can define what is the image name, and you can do multiple ones. So that I think would be the easiest one.